welcome to Smashterpieces, a casual walk through the history of the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate roster. My name is Joe.
And my name is Matt.
And if you're new to this show, what we are doing is we are playing one game for every character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate from 1984's Duck Hunt to 2019's Fire Emblem Three Houses. And today's episode is finally the finale of our discussion on the game representing fighter number 25, Roy. It is the 2003 Game Boy Advance game, Fire Emblem, the Blazing Blade, and of course, joining us one last time is Alex DeFreitas of NWR. Welcome.
Will I be banished after this episode?
That's generally how it goes. Okay. We have a well.
Yeah.
Although there's always one way or another to sneak back in.
Yeah, every once in a while the door opens, but it's a very brief window. You got to dash in real quick. We beat it. We finished it. It's fine. It's 7 months. It's finally over.
When we started playing this video game, Fire Emblem Engage had not been announced.
And it came out a month before we finished.
Yeah, Fire Emblem Engage hadn't been announced, and before we could even finish it, Fire Emblem The Blazing Blade was announced for NSO.
Well, that's just how this goes on this show. well, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Yeah, that's the Smashterpieces curse. Now there's going to be a version with rewind that I would have found a lot easier. But yeah, so we did it.
Yeah, I mean, I know the witch's curse. I've seen it happen multiple times, but it's very surreal to be literally a part of it. I'm living in it. A part of it, and here when it manifested twice in one Nintendo Direct, which is a new record, actually.
But you helped the Blazing Blade manifest personally, though.
Yes, I am accomplice to this curse.
Did anyone else notice that in that Nintendo Direct, Fusion got announced, but not Zero Mission?
Oh, no.
I bet I know what's going to be on NSO later this year.
And no Pokemon at all. I have a feel if we finish Zero Mission and like a month later it gets added to NSO, I'm gonna just lay down and I'm not gonna.
That's how it goes in this place, though. That's just the way.
I know. Again, the real test will be Mother 3 when we get there. If we summon that game, we officially have too much power.
That's when I quit. Like, I can't live with that responsibility. That's too much.
So yeah, Fire Emblem The Blazing Blade is over. It's the longest game so far. Hour count, at least my hour count, not by a huge degree. I think it's only like 3-4 hours longer than I took for Final Fantasy VII, which before this was the longest game that we had played, at least for me.
You know, I wasn't even paying attention to my hour count. Let me find that.
I do too much paying attention.
I know that this was a 15 stream game for me.
It was, and I think for me it was, I don't even remember.
I have yet to count.
Yeah, I don't remember how many I had. I think it was 11. Or, no, wait, I have it marked down. What am I talking about? 10. It was 10 streams for me.
Let's see, 27 hours, looks like? 28 hours, 53 minutes. And what was my Final Fantasy VII time?
28 is about an hour over my Final Fantasy VII time.
All I know is that my last playthrough before streaming this game was about 25 hours long.
How do you know how long this one was?
I can pull it up real quick. I imagine it might be like 5 hours more because of animations being turned on and sitting there and voicing the characters.
Yeah, people kept saying to me like you could just turn the animations off and it'll make the game go faster. It's just like, yeah, but then I don't get to see the animations. I want to see the animations. I only broke one time and turned off the animations.
Oh, Final Fantasy VII was like 24 hours for me. That's all.
Oh, nice. We'll
34 hours, 13 minutes.
Holy shit.
Though I don't know how much of that time was just like it sitting idly
You also did a fair amount of arena grinding.
Yeah, there's at least like 2 or 3 hours that account for an arena.
According to my personal tracking, not the one in the game, because the game timer wouldn't be accurate because I was using save states. But according to my count, 32 and a half hours.
That means the in-game death count would also not be accurate for you.
It absolutely would not, but I kept my own death count, remember?
Yeah, but did you know that exists?
I did not.
Yeah, so if you reset the game, then it keeps track of the person that died. So when you get to the end and it says, battles, wins, and losses, the losses is the number of times they died and you reset for them.
Nice.
Which is, I think, is a really fun thing for them to include.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I tracked that myself at the very least. I think we were at 21 by the end. 1 permanent death.
I don't even want to count my deaths.
I had a few. Not as much as Alex, though.
No, yeah,
you let the chat decide if somebody got to die at one point.
Yeah, that was your first mistake.
It was worth it for the content, but my soul
set a terrible precedent for us going forward.
It sure has.
Yeah, I have to play the answer now, you motherfucker. This is your fault.
Yeah, and I'm staring down the barrel of a gun that says Star Fox Adventures 100%.
Well,
did I construct
if it isn't
that
the
gun?
Consequences of our own actions.
Yep.
Me sewing, this is awesome. Me reaping, this fucking sucks.
Here's the thing, though, is me sewing, it was just like, this is going to suck.
So yeah, we played the last few chapters. It was the last 4 or 5 chapters? What did we stop on last time? So yeah, 26. The last 5 chapters. And one of those chapters was Cog of Destiny.
Boy, was it.
I fucking hated that level.
Rest in peace, your Cog of Destiny VOD, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, the VOD of me doing it is gone, which sucks, because I do wish it was up there, but sometimes this happens. It's just sort of lost of time. Unfortunately. The rest of the playthrough is still there, though. And honestly,
Lost media.
Lost media. Blame it on George. We'll do a video on it one day. But when I mentioned to Matt that oh, this is kind of just gone, his response I kind of agree with, which was, if any of them are going to disappear, maybe the one where I'm super frustrated for over half of it is fine.
Yeah.
For that to be gone. Cog of Destiny actively, I think I mentioned it on stream, but part of me feels like if I hadn't been playing it on stream and for a show, I might have dropped the game at that point.
Mm-hmm. It's a long map. It's a very boring map, I would say, too. There's not a lot of opportunity for interesting strategy in it. It's just, it pushes you forward and then tells you to go back. It's very boring, and also it's just kind of a dick move. It feels like it is obviously there to destroy your weapons. That's why it's there. Well, I don't think it's that. I think it's just they wanted to have sort of a climactic resolution to the Black Fang arc.
Mm-hmm.
But
they missed the mark on climactic.
The way that they made that happen was, I guess you're personally murdering every individual member of the Black Fang.
The reason I say it's there to break all your weapons is there's weapon durability in this fucking game, and then they throw 60 something enemies at you on that one map.
In fairness, there is a shop on that map.
Yes.
Yeah, there is. That is fair, but also 60 fucking enemies. And you have to kill all of them.
Yeah, it's a route map, I think, right?
Yep, sure is.
It's a route map, but I believe that the ambush, or not the ambush, but the reinforcements are generated from like zones. So if you stand in a zone, this many reinforcements are going to show up of this like from these fortresses or whatnot. So you can like avoid them.
Part of that's what's shitty though, because then they end up spawning behind you based on your progress forward a lot of the time.
Well, I think the wyverns are just going to show up because Veda shows up.
That's true.
I'm not sure what to do about that. But yes, it is, you know, we call it Slog of Destiny for a reason.
That chapter took me an hour and a half.
Yeah, I think like all you have to do really is just plug the holes, you know, set Hawkeye or Oswin or somebody like in that between those two mountains and have your best combat units just stay around those zones and you should be fine. Like I did an entire WiiWare ranking stream during Cog of Destiny, and I was able to get it done within my first try without losing anybody.
Was that chapter 1 stream for all of us?
It was an entire stream for me. It was about 2 hours.
It was an entire stream for me. It was the only map I did that stream.
If I recall correctly, I did more WiiWare ranking, but I didn't know more Fire Emblem after that map. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that just says to me that it's an exhausting map to play.
It's really also the era of Comcast for me right now.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like some of my streams were cut short by that specifically.
This Dragon Ball saga is the worst saga.
Yeah, and I think I've mentioned this before, but you know, this is late game Fire Emblem, so they expect you to have powerful units, but they don't know what your team composition is like, so they just kind of spam enemies at you, and that's less interesting than some of the more like strategy brain teasers from maybe the mid game. And I think, you know, comparing this to Engage, which has recently come out, Engage has a much better way of managing the late game.
I think Engage has really good late game maps.
Yes, it does. It really does. Where it's like, it's not just about sending all the enemies at you. There's also maybe a map gimmick that you have to work around.
Mm-hmm. And there were not a lot of map gimmicks in this one, but if they were pretty much just you move slower now.
Hector's story had one.
What did Hector's story have?
The magic seal?
Well, there were a couple Magic Seal maps, but Hector's story, this is actually one of the DLC maps that was brought into Engage with Hector.
Yeah.
It's a map where poison jet streams just shoot out at you.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds fun.
It is very fun. It's even more fun in Engage, where poison lasts the entire map.
Yeah.
Well, what's cool about those maps, you know, compared that one to the one you do with Eliwood, where it's also kind of like you're also in a cave, but there's 3 different routes and you have very limited unit deployment. So you can only bring, like, for me it was 3, and for Joe it was 6 because you were playing on normal.
Was it 6? I think it was only 5 because I think I had 2 on each side and then Eliwood.
Just Eliwood? Okay.
Yeah.
So for you, it was 5. So that one's less about like enemy spam and more about, okay, you only have this many units to work with, and they're separated from each other. So now just play smart.
And honestly, I kind of like that map. I think that map was pretty interesting.
It was.
I didn't play that one.
You did not.
It was fun.
Speaking of, this was my first time playing Hector's story, and Hector is a better main character than Eliwood.
Well, Eliwood's a piece of wood. It's even in his name.
Like,
he doesn't have a personality. His personality is hero.
Like, the thing is, Eliwood and Hector are both characters from Binding Blade. They both appear in that game, but they chose the wrong one to make the main character. Eliwood only made it in because he's Roy's dad.
Yeah, Hector has a whole lot more going on between the issues at home in Ostia and just him generally being a more interesting character because he's allowed to be to basically to be a jerk or to have grudges. You know, Eliwood, he's just loyal to a fault.
He's the virtuous hero.
He's the same main character that Fire Emblem had like 5 times by now.
Yeah, he's Marth with red hair, just like Roy was Marth with red hair.
He's more Martha than Roy is, honestly.
honestly, the most interesting thing about Eliwood is his whole thing with Ninian. I think that was a very interesting plot point that comes up 3 times. But that's it. Like he's a plank of wood otherwise.
The stuff Hector gets with his brother, and the scene after Hector learns that his brother has died and he needs to like deal with both that grief and the responsibility of having to lead Ostia now. Like that one scene was better than Eliwood's entire character arc.
Yeah, I don't know why, but the reveal of Ninian and her death it's never hit me. Like, I know it's sad.
It's kind of goofy too, though.
It happens a little too fast.
You immediately get the legendary weapon, and because you can't use it, because you still have to get through a couple more chapters, Eliwood just gets sad. So he has a reason to be sad to not use Durandal.
And I guess Hector can't use our mods too for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't know why. I forget. Did they try to explain why he's not using our mods when he's trying to protect his own castle?
I would say they do the opposite, because in Hector's story where he's like getting our mods, like I forget the name of the legendary hero for that chapter, but he warns Hector that our mods is a cursed axe, and using it means he is cursed to die on the battlefield. And Hector talks about how his resolve to save Eliwood and like defeat evil and all that stuff. He's very firm about how he's not worried about himself. He needs to get this done, and he just doesn't use our mods after that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's odd.
Absolutely beautiful.
I've heard a really interesting fan theory about that, and I wish I could like remember who it was who brought it up so I could credit them. But you know, Uther, he has this disease. I believe it's genetic, and that's the reason why he dies. And it's very likely that Hector has it too. But because he has our mods, he has to die in battle. And so that essentially prolongs his life.
Technically, if he died of that disease while standing on the battlefield, would that still be dying in battle?
So that
does he have to be struck down? Is that also part of the curse?
All they say is you will die in the battlefield.
Okay.
He walks out to like fight one dude and just has a heart attack and falls on the ground. Technically still in battle.
Is one dude a battlefield?
That is, so that theory overall is like, it's interesting.
In Fire Emblem it is.
It's an interesting fan theory overall, but I think I like it better without that fan theory, where it's not about Hector trying to find a way to extend his life. It's about him accepting his own death in favor of becoming stronger to help Eliwood.
Yeah, I see your point. But no, I won't fight you on Eliwood being the... I don't know. Lynn is probably just as bland.
Yeah, Lynn also kind of just doesn't have... She has a little bit more going for her, sort of. But only slightly.
Not a lot, but she definitely does.
Her connection to the Lorca tribe, yes. But like they forget about that and completely... She has nothing to do in the main story. After her prologue, she's just there to add commentary and get into fights with Hector.
She doesn't even get a legendary weapon.
No. Well, she's not allowed to.
Like, Athos hands Eliwood and Hector, like, these two super powerful, like, legendary weapons. It's like, here's a katana that looks like the katana you already have.
Lynn was just in the unfortunate position of Hector and Eliwood were characters from Binding Blade, and Lynn was not. Lynn was not allowed to be important because she doesn't exist 30 years from now.
Well, I was going to say, like, she can't get a sword because Binding Blade, that's Roy's weapon. Durandal, that's Eliwood's weapon. So she has to get the Soul Kadi, which is just, here's a Monogatari, but it's bigger now. Though they should have just given her the Mula gear, right? Like, I guess you get it within the chapter that, you know, the last chapter, and you fight Uhai. But maybe they should have just given it to her as her legendary weapon.
That's the problem, where at that point, Lynn is primarily a sword user, and they didn't make her promotion story based, so you might not have done it.
That's true. Yeah, you might not have done it, and she might not have S rank in bows, so you'd be screwed.
Mine didn't. She could use a longbow and an iron bow, and that's about as far as she could go.
But man, she's straight with the longbow.
Lynn is kind of a weird character to look back on now. Like, it's very obvious why she's so popular, because she was the first Fire Emblem character for the Western audiences. Like,
and also, she's pretty girl.
Yeah. But like I'm not going to say, oh, I don't know why people like Lynn. Like, of course people like Lynn. This was the first Fire Emblem game. But she's not even the most interesting character in her own game. And most every game afterwards has more interesting main characters than she is.
Yeah, unfortunately. She also has like a lot of FaceTime with you as the avatar in the prologue.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think with Eliwood and Hector, there are maybe a couple moments, but the campaign largely ignores Mark.
Yeah, well, if you on a replay, if you skip Lynn's story, Mark isn't there.
Yeah, he's just gone.
Who?
You.
Oh. They have a canon name?
Yep.
It's just the default name. Yeah.
Odd.
Yeah, you don't remember when the PNGs would look directly at you?
Oh yeah, no, I do. I just didn't know. I just didn't remember the default name being Mark. Huh.
Every Fire Emblem avatar has a name.
Speaking of a pretty girl, if you guys hadn't pointed out to me that I could do a support on that one map, which I think was before like part 2 of this series, I think I probably wouldn't have even realized they were in the game. I never saw another one ever.
Supports were brand new in the Game Boy Advance games. Like, they were not in the Super Nintendo games at all. So they were still trying to figure out how they worked for the most part. And since there's nothing in the menus that tells you anything about them, you don't know who has them. So you don't plan around them at all. And you don't
they're
even
also
know.
Very powerful.
Yeah, and also if you get them, like, it's very easy to miss. Again, if you guys hadn't pointed it out to me, I would have missed it.
Mm-hmm.
I like Penta and Louise support because I think it's like a massive boost to crit. And that's very helpful. But they come with an A support already. And to build up to A, you would basically have to spam end turn during a map with characters adjacent to each other. The GameCube and Wii games do a lot better, where it's just like they need to be on the same map at the same time, like just deployed, but they don't need to spend all this time adjacent to each other.
And then, of course, Awakening lets you just pair people up.
Yes.
Like, make them basically one unit.
And then you see the hearts go up, and you're like, oh, I know what's going on here. Thank you, game, for giving me feedback.
Yeah, it's cool when a game tells me a thing is happening.
Yeah,
it turns out.
The supports in Blazing Blade are definitely very understated. And there's a lot to the characters that you're just not going to see.
And as somebody that has only played the Fire Emblem games, where supports are a major focus, that's weird.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because the supports in this game are actually pretty good. This is before a lot of the characters became very tropey. And so I like this era of support writing, but unfortunately most players are just not going to see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see when we get to Path of Radiance kind of what this version of supports looks like when like the UI supports it whatsoever.
Yes.
Because Path of Radiance, the supports more or less work the same as they do in this game, where they're relatively limited in who can support with who. Like each person only has like 4 other characters that they can support with, but there's a dedicated support menu in the UI, so you'll know that they exist.
What's especially weird to me how understated supports are in this game, considering I've been told that Eliwood's can affect the ending.
Yeah.
Like, they can decide who Roy's mom is.
And how it's probably Ninian.
And how it's probably Ninian, because the game really, really wants you to know that Ninian wants some of that wood.
Again, how is Roy never told that he is part dragon? It just makes no sense if you know Binding Blade.
Well, to that end, maybe Ninian's not the canon wife, but
I don't know. Everything that happened in the game.
Oh, it definitely leads you to believe that she's going to be the canon wife. Yeah, if Ninian ends up with Eliwood, then like Nils just leaves by himself.
Good.
And he's not happy about it.
I don't like Nils. I don't care.
Yeah, Nils, they never really make him into a real character.
Yeah, he's not, because Ninian gets to be the real character, and there's no room for him.
Nils is just there, so you still have a dancer in gameplay when Ninian dies.
Yeah, that's basically it.
You guys laughed at that like it's supposed to be a joke. I was just stating.
It's just a funny observation still.
I do not disagree with that. It's the only thing that makes sense for why Nils exists.
He's just nothing. He doesn't, like you say, he doesn't get to do anything. He doesn't actually like have any. The closest to a meaningful moment he gets is, I need to stop sulking about how Eliwood killed my sister in front of me.
I need to deliver an Earth Seal to all these promoted units.
Hey, I needed one to promote Sane.
You needed one for Sane.
And then I didn't use Sane in the next two maps.
Threw him in the trash.
But he got a promotion in the second last map, and that's all that matters. It was, yeah, Nils just, at least he could dodge well, I guess. That helped during the very, very last thing. Okay.
He has a unique animation.
He does have a unique animation. And a bad song. I do like I think it was James in our chat decided the canon was the reason his song works to get you another turn is because the song is so bad that you have to get away. And I like that canon. I think that's good.
Overall, though, as far as story goes, Blazing Blade really just does have prequel syndrome in a way where there's just not a lot that they can interestingly do because the future is already set in stone. We already know what happens in 30 years. So the plot can't change that. And it's so weird that like Binding Blade is all about these dragons. And Blazing Blade comes in and starts to be about the dragons and then goes, but actually, no, forget about them.
Yeah. There are pockets of interesting material, like Sonya, Jafar and Nino, whatever's going on with Kashuna, the backstory with Nurgle, Arcadia, but it's not to the main plot itself that actively concerns our characters.
Yeah, and
all protagonists.
All of the most interesting stuff in the game is stuff you have to go out of your way to see. Like the Nino and Jafar stuff, you could honestly miss a lot of that if you don't manage to.
Yeah, Joe missed it.
Yeah, you don't get Jafar because he keeps walking away from you and the map ends in fucking a single turn. Thanks, Jafar.
And it's
asshole.
I almost have to wonder, like, why did they choose to make this game a prequel? Because that puts it, like, obviously they must have known this was going to be the first game that they were going to localize. So that made it awkward from that standpoint that it's making all these references to a game that people haven't played. But then it's also, you're restricting yourself so much with the story that you can tell. And it doesn't really feel like you had a great idea for what this prequel is going to be.
Not just a game that people haven't played, a game that if Nintendo has anything to say about it, nobody outside of Japan will play.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. Unless they remake it.
Maybe they thought it was just quicker to make a prequel than to make an original game because it came out like 2 years after Binding Blade. But
they still had to make all of
Stones was 2 years after this, and that's a completely brand new continent. So, I don't know.
I mean, I assume part of it, like, this wouldn't lead into the prequel thing, but, like, they could reuse a lot of assets, at least map-wise, for this game. And I assume Sacred Stones, I don't remember. It's been a very, very long time since I touched Sacred Stones. which I have played like up to the route selection part of that game, and then I quit.
Sacred Stones does reuse some assets, but does also have a distinctly different art style, I would say. Not drastically different, but if you put the two side by side, you can immediately pick out Sacred Stones.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is a good question why, of all the games they decided to localize first, a prequel to a game they knew we were not going to get was their choice. I mean, I understand that, like, oh, people are interested in Fire Emblem now because Martha and Roy were in Smash, but then just wait for Sacred Stones.
I wonder when was the decision to localize it made in development?
Maybe the reason they localized this one is because Eliwood is on the cover, but it doesn't say his name, so stupid Americans might just think that it's Roy.
Yeah, they can't make a sequel to Binding Blade because, unfortunately, Roy is successful in saving the world.
That doesn't mean the world can't be... Look, I've watched Dragon Ball Z. The world can always be threatened by something else.
Yeah, I think, for all of its faults, though, Alib as a continent is an interesting place. Like, the backstory is that the dragons and humans were fighting, and the humans came up with weapons that, like, were basically nuclear bombs that changed how the environment works. And so dragons can no longer hold on to dragon form. That's interesting to me. And the stuff that they do with Arcadia and the dragons that leave and Idun and Binding Blade, it's all good stuff, but it is at the corners of these stories.
Yeah, it is not really touched on in Blazing Blade. Like, Arcadia, when Arcadia was like described in a whole cutscene, I was like, oh, so we'll be going there at some point. No. You see that one CG of it, and that's it. That's all you get. I hope you liked the story time, because it's as far as you're going to get.
I mean, for that matter, consider that we never really go to Sakai either, for how important it is to win.
No, we don't go to Sakai. Well, essentially, Sakai is the first map where you fight the one boss.
Yeah, that's about it.
But, like,
that's it.
This is, like, for this reason, Lynn's map and Engage had to be taken from Binding Blade. Because you don't go to Sakai in Blazing Blade.
Is it? Interesting. I haven't done Lynn's map yet, so.
No, it is. It's literally a Binding Blade map.
Yep. Like, there literally is not a single map in Engage that's from this game until you get to the DLC, where it's just Hector's map. So you have not played a Blazing Blade map that is in Engage in any form.
Beautiful.
Despite finishing the game. You'll kind of recognize Roy's map because it shares a little bit of terrain with Cog of Destiny.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Like, they overlap.
Great. Perfect. Speaking of dragons, by the way, man, that ending fight was a wind out of my sails moment.
That is a difficulty spike.
So what happened?
I was so fucking hype after Nurgle died. I was like, yeah, holy shit, fuck yeah, we did it. And then the dragon started, and very, very little, all the joy left my eyes. We did figure out the strategy at a certain point, but like, the strategy sucks.
So I will say, I think your initial reaction to the difficulty was probably a bit off base, because in the end, it was not a very hard fight once you came up with the right strategy.
Once you figure out like how to sort of game it, it's not hard at all. It just becomes tedious. But like, from where I was standing at that point, it looked like fucking ridiculous.
I will also say, I don't think it's a very interesting final boss fight, because there's really no way to do it without cheesing it one way or the other. Either you do what you did, which was chip damage over the course of like 12 turns, or you do what I did, which is you have the Lunatome, which ignores enemy defense and
enemy resistance.
Yeah. And it's trivial. It's not a real fight. So I don't think there's a real way to to have that fight be interesting with what it is right now.
Yeah.
Right now, I say, for a 20-year-old game.
Fire Emblem just is really bad at boss fights. And again, Engage fixes this by giving bosses multiple health bars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not making them... It's it's not impossible to one-turn it, but you could if you're smart.
Engage is a pretty good game, it turns out.
Engage is a very good game. And I also cheesed it with the Lunatome. In fact, I did one-turn the dragon by having Athos crit with Luna, and then all I needed to do was warp Nils over to Athos to just have him hit one more time to finish the fight.
Yeah, I also one-turned the dragon. Like, when those long-range mages showed up in your fight, Joe, I didn't know that was going to happen. I killed it in one turn.
Jesus Christ.
And I sacrificed Canis so that Will would be able to land the final hit.
I needed to make sure that nobody else died, because otherwise my joke at the end of the stream would not work anymore.
Yeah.
That video with just Matthew only works if just Matthew is the one that died. Though I did have a stupid plan for if somebody else died.
Would you like me to read Canis's epilogue to you, by the way?
Sure.
Canis returned to his family in Ilia. Some years later, he and his wife died trying to stop a snowstorm. His child was raised by his old mother.
What do you mean trying to stop a snowstorm? What the fuck does that mean?
What we mean is that his son is a character in Binding Blade whose backstory is dead parents.
Binding Blade strikes again.
Oh, beautiful.
Which is that's why I let him die in the end game, because he's just gonna die in like 6 months anyway.
I did like the ending when it gives everybody's epilogues, and fucking Matthews is the only one that's Matthews dead, and then it moves on.
Died at Dragon's Gate.
For me, we had the great quote that Rebecca died at the Peddler Merlinus.
Merlinus killed Rebecca. Oh God, that's what that implies to me.
Speaking of prequel syndrome, why does Merlinus get to promote just in time to not get to use him anymore?
See, I didn't know it could promote. Mine only got up to 18.
Well, it's a story promotion.
It was?
Yeah.
No, it's... Is it?
That didn't happen.
I thought it was.
If it happened for me, then I've completely forgotten about it.
For me, it was the level 20 promotion.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong then. Still, it's so fucking late, though.
That's still 20 fucking maps into having Merlinus, and you get Merlinus pretty fucking late.
And his promotion doesn't do anything either.
It moves around. It's just like Binding Blade.
Yeah, well, it's there just because it's just like Binding Blade. That's all.
What do you mean it moves around? What the fuck does that mean?
He has a wagon.
He has a wagon. He's got a horse.
Bruce, you could have just bought a horse. That's all you had to do. I know you have money. You have my money.
And it's not especially helpful to have the convoy on a horse, because what's he gonna do?
Look, if Eliwood can just summon a horse out of thin air, so can Merlinus. That's all I'm gonna say. Apparently horses are a dime a dozen in this world.
Merlinus having a wagon in Binding Blade is actually pretty decent, because he cannot be permanently killed, so you can just throw him as a meat shield.
That's a good point.
Beautiful.
Which I presume is why they changed it to him being in a stationary tent in this game.
Oh, I could see that.
Still.
I can see that 100%. But yeah, that dragon, I did not enjoy my time with that dragon. I think the map right before it, with all of the older bosses coming back, and then also Nurgle, I think that map was awesome. That map was great.
It is a good map, yeah. You get to fight Brendan Reed.
You get to fight Brendan Reed.
You fight Germa.
Ursula comes back from the sea.
To fight Germa, yep.
It's just a good map in general.
The real final boss Uhai.
It's just a good map, and then you get to the dragon, and it's like, all right, this okay, this is how we're ending, huh? I mean, I get it. The whole game is about stopping dragons from coming through the Dragon's Gate. It makes sense that the last thing you fight would be a dragon that came through the Dragon's Gate. I get it. Figure out how to make a better fight first.
So it's also fucking weird that the final boss is a dragon when the story is so sympathetic to dragons.
Yeah.
It's just like, whoops, this one's gotta die.
Even Ninian's like, it's not your fault. And you're just like, well, I guess we're gonna murder it now. Time to eat shit, I guess.
It's a very weird fight in all respects.
But yeah, that's Binding Blade. Or that's not Binding Blade. But yeah, that's Blazing Blade.
Do you think you will ever in your life play Binding Blade?
Fuck no. It's
coming to Japanese.
If it's a Fire Emblem game that even you don't enjoy or can finish, what do you think I would think of it?
Oh, it's been like 8 years since I played it. Tastes changed. Maybe I like it now.
Sure.
I can send you a fan-made balance patch.
That's a weird thing to hear about a GBA game.
Seren did figure out how to hack in casual mode.
That is true. At some point in the chat, she was like, yeah, it took me like 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Apparently there's like a single variable in the game's code, and you change that, and suddenly casual mode.
That's weird.
Like it was always there.
That's really fucking weird. But there's one last thing we haven't talked about Blazing Blade, and that's the music, because we haven't mentioned that a single time in any of the episodes, because I still am not 100% certain how to handle the music in these multi-part episodes.
Well, for Earthbound, we handled it all at the end, and then we were like, that's a bad idea. For Final Fantasy, let's do it throughout. And then for this game, we didn't.
Yeah, pretty much. But, so there are some pretty decent songs in this game, I think. The problem is just for some reason, when I try to think of any of them to bring them to my, like, the front of my head, and I think part of this is also just, for a lot of the games I play, I will listen to the soundtrack just in my spare time. But for Nintendo games, that's a pain in the ass.
So I think I have a good idea as to why this game's soundtrack kind of has trouble being memorable. It's because it starts and stops so much.
Oh, I could see that, yeah.
In the more recent Fire Emblem games, the way that they handle the battle music is that it's one song that switches to a more intense version during combat. And that makes the song feel more memorable because you're actually hearing it in full the entire time.
And the GBA would probably melt if you tried to do that on it. But it was very, very weird hearing Strike because that is a song I've known for years because it is in Smash. And hearing it for the first time in context was a bizarre experience. It always is whenever I get things like this.
I mean, that's just kind of what this show's about in a way.
Kinda. Yeah. In a lot of ways.
It's interesting that I know the Fire Emblem version better than I know the Smash Brothers version personally.
I know the Smash version way better because, again, it was the only version I knew for... Oh, fuck. Brawl is like 12 years old.
It's much older than that.
I guess it is, yeah. Why couldn't you just let me have that? But yeah, before we started the show, actually, Alex, you give a lot of suggestions for tracks to bring up, and I think it's a pretty strong lineup, honestly. If you want to start that off.
Sure, yeah. It was. I mean, part of it's like I know these songs, but I don't know the name of them, and I have to try and remember like when they play. And so the first one I brought up was "Rise to the Challenge," which is a boss theme. It's got a lot of energy, and it's a good time.
See, and I do remember when I hear this one, I do remember it. And I think this is probably one of the better songs in the game, just in general, because it's just cool. It feels cool. It feels heroic.
It's got that tension.
Yeah.
The next one I got is Companions, which is, I think, just an iconic map theme from this game.
For some reason, my brain remembers the few times this played in cutscenes more than it remembers it being a map theme, which is probably because in cutscenes it doesn't start and stop.
Yeah, it probably also plays in cutscenes.
I believe it does in a couple, because that's where I thought it was from initially.
It is definitely a map theme too, though.
But I like that it changes throughout, so it has like this big, boisterous fanfare at the very beginning, and then it kind of gets soft and has like what I imagine is a flute. Joe, help me, because it's hard for me to interpret MIDI sometimes. They all just sound like Game Boy noises.
I want to say that's supposed to be a flute. Definitely a like higher woodwind. But if I had to take a guess, it'd be a flute. The problem with like GBA MIDIs is sometimes you just can't tell what they're supposed to be. Because this was before our game systems could create sounds that sounded like the instrument they wanted to sound like, except for trumpets, where the trumpets sounded like if a trumpet player was dying as he was playing.
GBA MIDIs are rough.
I think when they're used correctly, I think they can be very good when they're used correctly, and I think this game does use them to a pretty alright extent.
I mean, Ace Attorney, the very first one, was a GBA game. I think Capcom just knew.
They remastered the music in the DS version, though.
Oh, yeah, the DS version, they added bass.
Okay.
I don't think you've heard the GBA version of Ace Attorney music.
If you listen to the original GBA version, it like has zero bass to it, and it's really fucking weird. Like, really weird.
Huh. Well, I thought Intelligent Systems did all right with what they had for Blazing Blade. Do you have any more thoughts on Companions, or can I move on?
Go for it.
So there's the main theme, or the character themes, which are all like essentially the same track, but with different instrumentation. So Eliwood's theme is called One Heart. Hector's theme is called Loyalty. And Lynn's theme is Girl of the Plains.
Which is really funny because one of them is, first of all, everybody has one heart, Eliwood, you're not special. Second of all, Loyalty is like the most theme name it describes Hector very well, and then Lynn is just, she came from that place.
The place that we barely visit in the game.
Like, the other two are descriptions of, like, their virtues, and Lynn's is just, yeah, she lived on a plane at one point, and now she's here. And I don't know why I find that funny.
That's another thing about Lynn, where it's like, it feels like the fact that she's from Sakai just doesn't really matter that much. In a way, it feels like they write her better in Engage than they do in Blazing Blade.
I think at the very end of her prologue, you do get the sense that she's torn between Caitlin and her family, her grandfather, and wanting to go back to the place where she grew up. And then that tension is never explored ever again.
And it's also kind of weird. It was weird to me because, like, during all that, I'm sitting there and it keeps talking about how Ostia just took Kaelin. Like, Lynn just gave Kaelin to Ostia and said, peace, I'm out. And it's like, did I miss something? What? 'Cause
prequels, baby.
Like, they just talk about it as if it's a thing that I should already know, which if I was Japanese, I would, I guess. But
it feels like Lynn is the canon wife for Hector, which means she canonically has to fucking die young.
Oh yeah, no, those two have some tension going on. 100%.
Yeah. I agree.
It's her and Hector and Ninian and Eliwood. Those are the two.
I think like she probably belongs more with Wrath. But I think the game wants you to think she's supposed to end up with Hector.
But I just found that really funny that it just sort of came out of fucking nowhere. It genuinely felt like an entire chapter had happened and I missed it. But it turns out an entire game happened and I missed it.
Well, she also gets a different ending if she ends up with an A support with one of her potential husbands.
Who are her other potential husbands?
Wrath, Eliwood, and Kent.
Kent?
I mean, Ostia takes control of Kaelin in all of them, so...
Oh, okay. I haven't read up all the paired endings.
Well, it's because Kaelin is part of Ostia and Binding Blade.
Sure. Yeah.
Kent? Lynn, you can do so much better, sweetie.
Well, the
guy I benched like immediately.
The interesting thing is that Kent in the A support ending leaves Kaelin to go to Sakai with Lynn. And so does Florina.
Well, yeah, that's her canon wife. Florina's the canon wife.
Oh, that's right. Florina also has a paired ending with Lynn, yes.
And they were roommates.
And they were roommates.
Yeah, this is their paired ending. When her grandfather died, Lynn asked that Kaelin be taken under Ostian protection. She set out for Sakai with her friend Florina. Though Florina returned to Ilia, their friendship lasted forever. Fuck that.
Yeah, fuck you. Cut that last sentence out. No. Those two are the pair. As much as I'm like, yeah, no, Hector and Lynn have like a thing going on, it's Florina and Lynn.
Florina can also end up with Hector.
I guess.
Wait, Florina can end up with Hector?
Yeah.
I know Fiora can end up with Eliwood, and Florina can end up with Hector.
Yeah, for Hector, it's Lynn, Florina, and Farina. And for Eliwood, it's Lynn, Ninian, and Fiora. Fiora? Okay.
I forget Fiora exists most of the time, because by the time I got her, I already had God Killer Florina. I didn't need her anymore.
Also sucks for Fiora. Any woman who marries Hector and their epilogue is just reduced to a word replace in Hector's epilogue.
Oh no.
Well, isn't that kind of how some of them are in like later games too, where like one like member of the pair gets the epilogue and everybody, the other person is just like, and they were there too.
Yeah, but at least like for Eliwood's, like there's an entire sentence that's different. In Hector's, it's literally just the name of the woman.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Well, the next track I have is an unexpected caller.
Is that the caller that left the voicemail?
Yeah, Joe, you have to explain that.
I left a voicemail for Nurgle. I'm proud of that voicemail.
It was a good voicemail. An unexpected caller is the track that plays usually towards the end of a little story segment when the heroes realize that they're being ambushed and the chapter's about to begin. And it's got a whole lot of energy. It gets you excited to play a map.
Yeah, this is a memorable one. I like, the thing is, when I hear the song, it's like, oh yeah, I remember hearing this. Like, for all of these, that's the thing. Yeah, I definitely think I agree. This brings about the right tone for a battle is about to begin.
Yeah,
it's good.
And then my last one is 7 Blessings of the 8 Generals. Not 7 Blessings. It's Blessings of the 8 Generals. This is the song that plays whenever you use a legendary weapon. And it's unlike anything that you hear throughout the rest of the game. So it feels very special, and it feels very like ethereal and divine in a way.
Yeah, the MIDI choir is not an instrument you hear on any other track in the game, as far as I can remember.
And I just like it.
It reminds me of Paper Mario, like the darker endgame parts of Paper Mario.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of Final Fantasy. Just a tad, slightly. Not like 100%, but it does sound a lot like some stuff that I'd hear in a Final Fantasy game. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it only plays during like the 5 seconds where you use a legendary weapon, so
yeah,
I wanted to highlight it.
No wonder it reminds me of Paper Mario. Same composer.
Oh, is it?
Well, there you go. I mean, intelligent systems, it makes sense.
That's true. I think I might have known that, actually, because of original soundtrack, now that I think about it. But one track I think we do need to go ahead and give a highlight real quick, because it's the first time we've heard it on the show so far.
Oh, of course.
Yes. That's the main theme of Fire Emblem.
The song from the commercial.
Hear that more at some point later.
I heard this one a lot while waiting for the stream to start.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it's now we know it is an iconic theme. At this point, we did not know that in time. If we were back at 2003,
yeah, people would call "Together We Ride" the Fire Emblem theme at the time.
Because that was the only Fire Emblem song anybody fucking heard up to that point.
Well, that's the thing. The remix of Together We Ride in Melee has the Fire Emblem theme in it.
It sure does. But, like, at the end. But yeah, it's a good theme. And like I said, we'll hear plenty different versions of this theme as we go forward.
Yeah, this is a serviceable version of it.
I mean, it's no Latin lyrics.
No.
But, you know. The first time I had heard this song actually was the Brawl version, because I did not play Melee as a kid. So I did not hear Together We Ride until it was in Brawl.
I'm very excited for y'all to hear the Tokyo Mirage Sessions version of this song.
I've already heard it. I've beaten Tokyo Mirage Sessions, baby. I don't remember what it sounds like, but
Joe, have you seen
that was a long time ago.
Have you seen the old commercial for Fire Emblem in Japan?
I have not. I know that when the song was put on the dojo, Sakurai mentions that it became famous from a commercial.
There it is.
Let's see how this looks.
That commercial is legendary, by the way.
No, I've never seen this fucking commercial. Are these the lyrics they use in the Brawl version?
No.
Okay, I was about to say, they sound slightly different.
I mean, if you've ever heard a Japanese version of the song, it's these lyrics. But the Latin lyrics in Brawl are not based on this.
Beautiful.
And they remade it for Binding Blade. Because, of course, they did.
Tells me literally nothing about what the game is, but beautiful, nonetheless.
Then here's the American commercial for Blazing Blade.
Hold on, I gotta watch the version that Alex posted. See, this one at least I could tell sort of what the game might be. They're in costumes and shit.
They were in costumes and stuff in the first one too. It's just blurry as shit.
That is true. What is the Fire Emblem commercial with the U.S.? Oh, I think you did show me this at one point.
Build an army, trust nobody, Fire Emblem. A game in which you definitely build an army, and you have to trust the people that are in your army.
Yeah, literally, that's like the whole thing is about building an army that's the game.
But Joe, what happened to Dorcas?
Oh, old video game commercials, you were great. Back before we could just make a bunch of like fucking CGs or just put game footage to a metal song or some shit.
Thankfully, in Fire Emblem Heroes, Dorcas mentions the mutton in one of his voice lines.
Man, we used to be a real country, man. I don't really have anything else to say about Fire Emblem: The Blazing Blade. What an ordeal! What an era! By the end of this, was so tired of streaming this game, and I want people to know. By the way, I've said a lot like, "Oh man, I'm so ready to be done with this game." It's not because I didn't like the game. It's because the game went on to the end of time, and I should probably just get used to that because this is not the last time that is going to happen by a long shot. It's gonna
be for a while.
It is gonna keep going. The only example otherwise, like, I'm looking at maybe 4 games on the list that might be that again. We'll see.
There might be some games that are like the entire year.
Oh, Persona 5, I feel like will be an entire year.
Yeah, Persona 5, we need a strategy for.
Like, but I mean, like, within the next 6-7 games, like 4 of those are gonna be this. So I'm just gonna have to get used to it, but like...
We've got a couple short games coming up. Like, alright, like Pokemon might take a little while, but like...
We have F-Zero and Metroid, and then probably Star Fox.
But like, we're gonna have Paper Mario, Metroid back-to-back. Metroid Prime 2, rather. And then we're gonna have Path of Radiance, Mother 3, Twilight Princess, Crisis Core back-to-back.
Yep.
And then from there, we've gotten through most of the guests that we ever have planned. So I don't know if anyone else wants on for anything.
Most of the guests we have planned, about 90% of them are in this span of 10 from Metroid Prime to Path of Radiance. That's not a joke. So, yeah.
Well, if y'all ever have another Fire Emblem, like, I'm always down. You know where to find me.
We have many of those. I don't know if you know this, but there are a lot of Fire Emblem characters in Smash.
There sure are.
Joe's very against repeat guests, but I'm sure one day we'll wear him down.
There is almost as many Fire Emblem characters in Smash as there are Pokemon, and that's kind of fucked up. If you really think about it.
Awakening inflates those numbers a lot.
It does, but also, like...
2 of them are Echo Fighters, okay? Back off.
Yeah, but...
For the most part, I still defend it, because Fire Emblem is an anthology series. There are entire canons.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying, holy shit, it's kind of fucked up that anything that's not Mario has almost as many characters as Pokemon.
I strongly stand by it, because there are entire canons represented by single characters in Smash Brothers with Fire Emblem. But then you get 3 Awakening characters, and that's too much. Roy. We could do without Roy, I think.
It's a good thing they balanced it out with everybody's favorite, Corrin, who's actually really fun in Smash. That's mostly a joke.
Yeah, that's the thing that sucks. I hate Corrin in Fire Emblem and Smash Brothers. Corrin's pretty cool.
But yeah, we've got a lot of Fire Emblem games. We have one coming up in the next 7 games. Less than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, exactly 7 games. Holy
nice.
shit! Fucking no scope. But yeah, I guess that's where we will end this era of Smashterpieces and move on. But before we do that, Alex, where can people, one last time, I know you've said it 3 times now, where can they find your stuff?
Well, I'm a part of Nintendo Report, so you can find me at a lot of places. You'll be finding Matt and Joe. So I'm on the Twitch channel. I edit connectivity, and I'll sometimes make appearances there. I just did a review mini for Fire Emblem Engage's Wave 2 of DLC, so that's up on our YouTube channel. But yeah, I'll probably be around at least once or twice a week for streams on our Twitch channel, so come by and say hi.
I still got to drag you through more indie games.
Yeah, we still have to do more of that. We got to play some NSO this coming Friday.
Yeah, so if you're listening
neither of you have actually said that you're down for that.
If you're listening at the time of recording, there might be an NSO. Or listening. Yeah, if you're listening at the time of recording.
Very optimistic to say that we're going to have this out in time.
Well, I just said if you're listening at the time of recording, which if you are, please get out of my house. What I meant to say was if you're listening at time of release, which will hopefully be within the week of Valentine's Day, there might be an NSO multiplayer night on Friday, and those are fun. You should come see them. I don't know. Stop asking me questions. You're asking too many questions, and I don't like it. All right, Alex. I love you.
Well, first up, Alex.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's a question. We got the question.
Yeah, we've got a question for you. Who, of any Nintendo employee, past or present, would you want to physically fight?
Audrey Drake, hands down.
Why?
Any particular reason?
I'm not going to survive that fight. Well, she used to work at IGN, and she covered Fire Emblem Awakening. And at some point in her coverage, I'll have to hunt down the video and share it. She suggests that you should weaken a character with a lower level unit and then finish them off with Frederick, which is the opposite way of playing Fire Emblem. You want to weaken them with Frederick and then give your experience to the lower level unit. She also wrote the lyrics to Ocean's Grey Waves from Fates, and that's the most iconic song from the worst Fire Emblem game.
You've been holding on to this for a while,
haven't you? I've been thinking about it for months. I came prepared.
You were ready.
Hey, look, Lost in Thoughts All Alone is a good song. Look, there might be a lot wrong with Fates. The soundtrack is not one of those things.
No, it's a very good soundtrack.
It is a fantastic soundtrack. Okay, that was a more detailed answer than I expected, considering I'm pretty sure we put you on the spot more so than we do most of the guests. But look, Alex, I love you, but you've been in my house for 7 months, and I need you to leave. All right, now that guy's gone, thank God. It's been so long. It's time to finally move on to our next game. Which,
Gee, fuck Alex, huh?
To be fair, I forgot other games existed for a while.
We made that joke once with Earthbound.
We sure did.
Earthbound didn't take quite as long.
And I'm pretty sure we made it for Final Fantasy VII, too. Our next game is representing fighter number 11, Captain Falcon, going back to one of the OGs. It is the 2003 GameCube game, F-Zero GX. And once again, as will be the case for most of the games in this group of 10, holy shit, we are not alone. Joining us for this game is a friend of ours. Everybody please welcome Vixie. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing pretty well. Excited to be here. Happy to play this game again.
You are the biggest F-Zero fan we know, personally. Or at least the one that I know.
Well, yeah, the rest are all dead.
You're also one of the first people to like ever be signed on to be a guest. So like
Yeah.
this has been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the show started before Ultimate came out, and that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I believe we're coming up to 5 years.
It's weird that no one
Not
wanted to
6.
be guests on the NES games.
Huh. Yeah, that's kind of bizarre, isn't it? It's weird that after we finish Path of Radiance, then the guests get very few and far between.
A lot of people would like to guest on later games. It's just they've already been guests.
But yeah, we're here to talk about F-Zero GX, the game I fear in this group of 10 more than any other.
I think you'll find a way to have fun.
Oh, I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun. I'm terrified of this game.
I think this is going to be very Pokemon Puzzle League, where I finish the objective long before you do, and I just start playing the other modes in the game while you keep doing the story.
I am slightly prepared for the possibility of getting a DNF in this game, but that is not my plan, and that is not what I'm aiming for. I would like to get to the win condition, which is to complete story mission 8, which, Matt, you said that's not even the last story mission.
It sure ain't, because you're not finishing story mission 9.
I've been, like, wondering about that for years, because, like, it's not that different from the rest of the game. It's just a time trial.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be so bad at this game. You don't understand. I'm gonna be so bad at this game.
But, like, you have to learn to do everything else just to get to that level.
Joe, here's what I think for you. I think what you should do is you should play the story mode until you hit a wall where you're just like, I can't do this, I can't keep going. Then take some time to play the other modes to kind of get some practice in where you're accomplishing stuff. And then after that, come back into the story mode and see if you can make a little more progress.
I have the distinct feeling that this might be the first game on the entire list where I may have to practice off stream. Because that's never been a thing for any of the other games. I did not practice Puzzle League. The only other times I have played games off stream for this show is when, like, I'm grinding in FF7.
Yep.
This is like grinding in real life.
Yeah, it's like grinding, except my brain will not absorb any of it, I know, but I'll fucking try.
At least you can properly practice off stream. Because like, remember the reason that I kept doing 6-hour Puzzle League streams was because I really liked the game and did definitely want to play it off stream, but I couldn't, because imagine how disastrous it would be if I beat you two off stream. So like the story mode specifically is our objective here. So you're good to just play the rest of the game elsewhere.
So I do have one thing I need to mention is that, are y'all playing this from fresh saves, I assume?
I will be.
So here's the thing about story mode is that each chapter has to be purchased with the in-game currency, and you get that currency both from playing story mode, but also from playing the Grand Prix.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you will have to play the Grand Prix mode one way or another. In fact, the first thing you do in this game, I really think should be just playing the Ruby Cup, because I think it's a much better introduction to the game than story mode, just on like a sheer vibes level, just getting a feel for the game. And I'm not saying you're going to win, but like, I think that's just the best way to get immersed into this game, just to go right into Grand Prix immediately.
So I actually kind of think that this works out very well, because the reason that we made story mode the objective is because we tried to focus on, for our objectives to be things that had defined beginning, middle, and ends. But it did always, something that I did always regret about choosing story mode for F-Zero GX is that it's such a small portion of the game. So I had forgotten that story mode is not just like you play through the 9 missions and that's it. So knowing that you do still have to go to Grand Prix, I actually think that works out better. Personally, I like
be a
that.
more interesting stream, honestly.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that.
And also, just in case you're still scared, Grand Prix is actually a lot more forgiving than story mode. So, like, in a game like Mario Kart, they always have, like, a few characters who are set to win every time, or take first place or second place every time. In F-Zero, first of all, you can actually just knock players out if you know what you're doing, and, like, they can't get any points. Yeah. It's great. You just completely eliminate the competition.
There's no fucking Lucky 2 in this game, motherfuckers.
Secondly,
Milan's favorite game.
Yeah, secondly, there's a bit more randomization in who comes first. So you can actually, like, not get first at all during the races and still come out in first just by having the strongest overall point total.
That's good. But it's
That's
a lot
one of the
better.
things I really like about this game.
Yeah, it's a problem that Mario Kart always has, where it's like from
Exactly.
the very first race, you know exactly what the placement of the CPU is going to be at the end.
This game is much better than that.
I have played this game very briefly, like a long time. Like, I'm talking pre having moved out. I was at someone's house and we played it for like 30 minutes, and I remember not finishing a single race. So this is gonna be good.
I've played this game a lot, but the problem is that the last time that I played it was roughly 16 years ago, 17 years ago. So I have put a substantial amount of time into this game in my life. It's just I've spent a very substantial time since not playing it. So it's wrong to say that I'm going into this with no experience, but that experience ain't gonna do shit for me. I might as well be playing brand new.
Some stuff is muscle memory, but I mean, after that long, then yeah, you might just be relearning the game from scratch.
It's largely going to be the same story as Puzzle League, where I played it a ton when this was a brand new video game, and I have not touched it since.
I think you'll pick it up, though. I think the mechanics of this game are really... You just kind of, like, feel them out after a while, and once you've got a feel for it, it just becomes really addicting.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm okay if this game takes us a few streams, like, because we just spent an awful long time in a long RPG, and you know what's next? A long RPG.
I don't think it'll be as long an RPG, but it'll certainly be long.
How Long to Beat says it's longer.
Yeah, but I'm an adult, and I know how to play Pokemon. So, yeah, I don't foresee this taking, like, probably a month.
It's not going to be an 8-month game for sure.
Yeah, we won't be on this game for half a year.
I think that there is a version of events where, like, you don't blaze through the story mode, but you're feeling confident enough in your skills getting better that you really want to put the time in, and this might take 2 months. I don't see it taking a minute longer than that, though.
I think this game will take as long as you want it to, basically.
Pretty much.
What if, somehow, against all odds, I start playing F-Zero GX, and I'm a fucking prodigy.
This is your Puzzle League?
This is my puzzle. What if this is my Puzzle League? Fair warning, this will not be my Puzzle League.
Joe, that's what I said about Puzzle League.
I believe in you. I'm rooting for you. You can do it.
Oh, it's gonna go so fast. So yeah, we're ready. We're ready to go fast. Speed. There's gonna be a lot of speed. I'm glad they made a game for that guy from Smash Brothers.
He basically is at this point, isn't he?
At this point, he might as well be.
This is the most recent F-Zero game. I don't care about that GBA game based on the anime. It's not real.
On
It can't hurt me.
consoles, yeah. And the GBA game that came out after GX is an anime spin-off. Hey, this franchise had an anime at one point. What the hell?
And now it's dead.
This is also the first Ryuga Gotoku game.
This is an RGG Studios game in the same sense that Gurren Lagann is the first Trigger anime.
Yeah, it really is, unironically. And
Yeah, Nagoshi was the director, wasn't he?
He was.
Yes.
He was.
and it is my opinion that you can tell looking at the cutscenes. You can tell.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
This is the Nagoshi game, which also puts it in the same lineage of games like Daytona USA and Virtua Racer. So Nagoshi has
Super
quite a
Monkey
history
Ball.
of racing games. Yeah, and Super Monkey Ball too. You'll definitely be falling off the track about it.
We should bonus game Super Monkey Ball, just for the hell of it.
I would love to watch that.
I also fear Super Monkey Ball, but in a comical way.
Let me just write down some punishment game ideas there. No, unironically, I think we'd have a lot of fun with a Super Monkey Ball stream.
I've actually never played a Super Monkey Ball game.
I think it would be very fun. We should do it.
I think you'd like it, actually.
We got to keep going further back in RGG's history.
When's the Smashterpieces coming out?
After Theatricums, which is the joke I made for Zero like 2 days ago.
Look, we've talked about this. Our next project is Project Cross Smashterpieces.
These are all terrible names, and we're going to need to go back to the drawing board, but hey, guess what, listeners? Who knows how many of these are jokes? Even we don't know. That's the scary part. Alright, I don't got anything else to say about F-Zero quite yet. I'm ready to jump in soon, probably like the week after this episode comes out, most likely, which will hopefully be soon. I don't know.
Sure hope so.
That would be ideal, but you know what they say about ideal.
What did it say about Ideal?
I have no fucking clue. Anyways. So, yeah. Are we all ready? Are we good? Are we set to go fast?
I don't
Got my seatbelt buckled up?
I don't know how to make a schedule that doesn't have Fire Emblem on it.
It's been so long. You say the week we made a schedule without any Fire Emblem on it?
It felt really wrong deleting the Fire Emblem stuff from my Photoshop save.
Oh, when I deleted the part of my stream layout that was the slideshow of Roy and the Fire Emblem logo, I felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. It was amazing, and I'm going to feel that for every RPG we play from here on out.
Someday I'll delete the Kingdom Hearts stuff from the
No,
PSP.
you won't.
No, the worst part is that every time I do delete it, and then I have to put a different one on.
Anyways, Vixie, it's good to have you on, and I look forward to you showing the both of us up completely 100%.
Oh, I will, but it won't be on stream, so y'all are good.
That means that we could say we did better, and you can't prove
No
otherwise.
one would ever know.
No one would ever know, except unless you literally pulled out, like, the camera that you keep in your pocket at all times, because we all do, and recorded it.
I mean, the game has, like, high scores on it. Like, I could just show you my times.
Send me your replays, and I'll do a stream where we just play the replays.
Do you need me to, like, send you my GameCube memory card?
This can be arranged.
Yeah, the worst part is that would actually work.
Oh, I don't think I have enough room on my memory card, though, to give me that warning screen at the beginning every time.
Ah, damn. Anyways, with that, we're gonna go ahead and say goodbye. So, hi, my name is Joe.
My name is Matt.
My name's Dixie.
And we will see you next time as we have our discussion on F-Zero GX.